It's Tuesday, October 7th, 2025, and I'm tracking a few weather systems across the U.S. and some out in the tropics as well. Tropical storm Jerry just formed in the Atlantic, and it looks to become a hurricane over the next few days. I'm also tracking a strong front that looks to cool things down for the northeast and potentially bring frost for some locations. I'm also tracking Hurricane Priscilla that'll be moving northward, potentially bring some heavy rain for parts of the southwest. First, we're going to talk about the newly formed tropical storm Jerry, which will be heading off to the northwest over the next few days. It will eventually affect the eastern Caribbean, potentially as a hurricane, before strengthening to a Category 2, possibly a Category 3, as it gets closer to Bermuda. And here's a look at the spaghetti plot forecast over the next few days. These are individual model runs, and you can see how, as Jerry makes a turn off to the north, there's a little uncertainty here when that turn happens. And depending on when the turn happens, that could have some effects, direct effects on the Caribbean, and potentially some indirect effects for the East Coast, including some waves and high surf, and maybe some beach erosion. So, something we have to keep a close eye on. Meanwhile, if it takes the easternmost track, it's really just going to affect Bermuda. And if it takes the center of the track, it could take a direct hit, or at least the island will. So, something to watch over the next several days here. There's also some uncertainty for Jerry to intensify here, where we could potentially see the hurricane get up to Category 4 strength, at least on some of the models here. But Category 3 to 2 strength is more likely Category 2, potentially just to Category 1 if the ingredients don't align. But there is still potential this storm could be a major hurricane, so that's something we will have to watch closely, especially with the track close to the Caribbean and then close to Bermuda as well. And here's the wind gust forecast over the next several days here. As Jerry continues to track off to the north and west, it eventually will make that turn and then potentially could impact parts of Bermuda directly, if not just skirting the island to the east. So that's something we'll be keeping a close eye on. But notice along the east coast, something interesting is going on as Jerry moves off to the north. There may also be a coastal storm forming at the same time, which we will talk about potentially the development of that as well in just a couple minutes here. So these are the wave heights just from Jerry. You can see could have potentially some higher waves. And then factoring in the potential coastal system for the East Coast, we could be talking about some significant beach erosion here and maybe some coastal flooding with the combination of both systems. Once again, two systems potentially in the Atlantic. This time it'll be a coastal system and a tropical system combining forces here. So this could be interesting as we head through the next several days here. If that coastal system looks a little more intense, we could be dealing with some problems along the East Coast. We also have some active weather to track for the East Coast. Through tonight and into Wednesday's forecast, a fast-moving cold front looking to cool things down significantly. It'll bring some much-needed rain for parts of New England. And on the tail end of this front, that's where we could be talking about the development of the coastal system. So this is the same system, basically, that could potentially spark a chance of that coastal storm developing. And this is the rainfall forecast just for the next 24 hours, not factoring in rain from the coastal system. But we could be talking about upwards of 2, maybe even 3 inches of rain in spots. This is certainly much welcome for parts of the Northeast and New England that are very dry right now. And we could be factoring even more rain as we head into the weekend and next week, with potentially that coastal storm working its way into the forecast. For now, we have some cold air behind the cold front, with temperatures dipping below freezing for several locations in northern Wisconsin, and there is a freeze warning out for a good portion of the Midwest. And that cold front will be the knockout punch for the warm air across the Northeast. Cold temperatures settling in by Thursday morning, with potentially frost on the way both Thursday and Friday morning for parts of New York State and New England. So certainly some cold stuff after the front passes by. So here's the future radar. You can see that cold front heading to the south, interacting with Jerry as it heads off to the north, but also that coastal system, the coastal low forming on the tail end of that front, and then pushing off to the north, basically interacting with the trough associated with the front, and that allows the storm system to develop and mature relatively quickly, moving its way up the coast and potentially causing problems for parts of the East Coast. So here's a look at the development of that coastal system from the American model here. This is the wind gust forecast, and you can see it really starting to develop by Saturday night going into Sunday morning just off the coast of Delaware, and then pushing its way off to the north and east to parts of New York State and New England, where we could be seeing those wind gusts in excess of about 50 to even 60 miles per hour. There's still a lot of time, though, for the model to sort out what will happen with the storm system, but it's already looking pretty impressive. I do think we will at least see a coastal system, but will it actually get close enough to parts of southern New England to bring on those 50 to 60 mile per hour gusts will be the thing that's in question here. And I do think that the track may be in question as well, because we do have Jerry out to sea that could affect its track, but this is something that still bears watching as we head into the weekend and into early next week. So if the storm does stay on track and the American model is correct, we could be dealing with really substantial rain here, but at least this is a region that does need it. Unfortunately, though, the ground is relatively dry across a good portion of this region, so hopefully the front helps out on Wednesday morning, because we could be dealing with some flooding across parts of the Northeast with tropical rains coming in and potentially a few days of heavy rain from the coastal system. So this is also something that bears watching. Definitely the rainfall factor, but also we could see some coastal flooding effects in addition to this. So this is not a great system to really quench the drought, but certainly much needed rain, possibly too much of that rain, and then potential coastal flooding to go along with it. Now we head over to the Eastern Pacific. We're tracking Hurricane Priscilla, which continues to work its way just off to the west of Mexico, right along the coast, basically. It is a Category 2 hurricane with sustained winds about 110 miles per hour, but it will continue to weaken as it moves off to the north, and eventually its effects will be felt across the southwest as we head into the weekend. So here's a look at the forecast here for the West Coast and Rockies. You can see Priscilla's rain coming into the forecast here by Friday morning, and then really starting to settle in as we head into Saturday and Sunday. So we have that system, and also a system that's over in the Northwest. So places like Seattle getting some showers, as well as Portland, Oregon. But we also could see some of Priscilla's remnants go up that far north into places like Idaho and Montana, where it meets up with the cold air, and that's where you could see some significant snows, believe it or not, as these two systems basically combine to produce the effects over there in parts of Montana. It's not unusual to see snow in this part of the area, at least this part of the country this time of the year, but we'll see just how much snow we could get as we head through the next several days. Still a few days to iron out the forecast here. And this is an early snowfall estimate for parts of Montana and Idaho, and even Wyoming seeing some snow from this. There could be some heavy snowfall, especially for some of the mountain ranges, but even going into parts of the plains as well. So we'll see just how much snow we could get out of the system, but we have to iron out that forecast. Still some uncertainty. Over the next few days, though, we'll have some better details and hopefully have an update for you as we head into the weekend. Meanwhile, we are still expecting a pattern change as we head through the next couple of weeks. The next few days is kind of a taste of that pattern change, but eventually by the end of the month, we have a better chance of seeing some cooler air across the eastern U.S. Still a decent chance of seeing some warmer stuff before this happens, but as we go into the 15th, there'll be a stronger front that forms out in the Rockies, and then we'll push eastward, eventually cooling things down significantly from the Midwest to the East Coast with below average temperatures on the way. So if you're looking forward to some more cooler fall-like air, this will be in the forecast as we head towards the end of the month. At least the last couple of weeks of October look a little bit cooler, so we'll start to get more and more tastes of those very cool fall-like mornings as we head through the next several weeks. So looking ahead, we'll be tracking Jerry as it continues to strengthen into a hurricane over the next few days. And also that coastal storm, we have a potential of that storm forming, and then we'll see what its effects will be on the East Coast once it does form. But we'll have updates on that. Also, the storm's tracking into the southwest. What's left of Priscilla could spark a chance of some flash flooding scenarios. And then we also have a chance for some snow across the northern half of the Rockies, specifically into parts of Idaho and going into Montana and Wyoming. So another chance of some snow here early in the season, but we'll see what happens over the next few days, and I'll have updates as we head into the weekend and next week.